Hi, my name is Shane Knisley, and I work at Mercy Hospital. At my job, I try to make sure that all the doctors and the nurses have everything that they need so that everybody can get healthy, so that they can not have to spend too much time in hospitals. Now, I'm going to read a story to you about Dr. Ted. We'll get to learn a little bit about Dr. Ted and why he decided to become a doctor. All right. So Dr. Ted was written by Andrea Beatty and Pascal Lemaitre. Okay. So one morning, Ted woke up. He got out of bed and he bumped his knee. Well, that's not good, thought Ted. He said, I need a doctor. He looked everywhere. Looked under his bed, looked in his closet, in his nightstand, but he couldn't find one. And since Ted couldn't find a doctor, he decided to become a doctor. Look at him, he's got a stethoscope in his jacket. Dr. Ted didn't have an office, so he made one. Dr. Ted didn't have a big bandage, so he made one of those too. Now all I need is a patient, he thought. He sat and he waited for one to arrive. He waited and he waited. Nice waiting room, thought Dr. Ted. Then he waited some more. Nobody's showing up. Well, you think it's time for a house call, he thought. Hello? He called throughout the house. Doctors used to make house calls a long time ago. So that's what he's thinking. Maybe I can just go find a patient. His mother was in the kitchen. You have measles, said Dr. Ted. We should operate. His mom says, those are my freckles, said his mother. Just eat your breakfast. At school, Dr. Ted sat in the third row of Mrs. Johnson's class, and all around him, students coughed and sniffed and sneezed. Well, that's not good. Dr. Ted smiled. Patience, he thought. You see all of those little animals around him coughing and sneezing. The patients were very germy. Look at them. Nose is running. At lunch, Dr. Ted took their temperatures and measured their blood pressure. That's where he puts a little cuff on your arm and they pump it up to see how your heart's beating. He gave them fine medical advice, and they were very thankful. Look at them. After they saw Dr. Ted, they're not sneezing anymore. Dr. Ted was such a good doctor that even Mrs. Johnson came to see him. You can't practice medicine in the lunchroom, she said. Uh-oh. You have mumps, said Dr. Ted. Crutches could help. She says, those are my cheeks, said Mrs. Johnson. Eat your lunch. Sounds like you shouldn't be seeing patients during lunch. So Principal Bigham walked in. Dr. Ted could tell he was very sick. We already have a school doctor who visits on Fridays, Principal Bigham said with a smile. You have gingivitis, said Dr. Ted. You need a full body cast. Principal Bigham frowned. Do you know what gingivitis is? That's when you have bad breath. And I don't think the principal liked it. Dr. Ted told him he had bad breath. You also have bad teeth, said Dr. Ted. You need a shot. Look at him giving him a shot. Uh-oh. The principal's face turned bright red. And a fever, said Dr. Ted. You need a transplant. He's got a saw. What's he going to do? We already have a school doctor. Principal Bigham pointed toward the door. Uh-oh. I think Dr. Ted's getting shown the door. We could do something about that foot odor, said Dr. Ted. Wow, the principal's got bad breath and his feet stink. Go home, said Principal Bigham. Dr. Ted was very sad. He packed up his big bandage and went home. That night, he took 2 cookies and went straight to bed. I bet he thought that sounded like a good idea. The next day during recess, Ted sat on a bench inside. He watched Frances Sylvester do gymnastics on the monkey bars. She was very talented. Everyone thought so, especially Mrs. Johnson and Principal Bigham. Frances finished her routine with a triple twisting somersault, and she landed on Mrs. Johnson. That's probably not going to be good. Ouch, cried Mrs. Johnson. My ankle. Principal Bigham ran this way and that. Help, he called. Call an ambulance. Call the fire department. Call the library. Just call somebody. Oh. But Dr. Ted was already there. Stepping right over. See him? Dr. Ted. He wrapped Mrs. Johnson's ankle with his big bandage. He checked her vision and he checked her tonsils. Take 2 cookies, he said. You'll feel better in the morning. Worked for him last night. Just then the ambulance arrived and the fire department and the librarians. Books are good help too. It's a good thing you had Dr. Ted, they all said. There's always room for another school doctor, said Mrs. Johnson. My work here is done, said Dr. Ted. You can keep the bandage. Well, that was nice of him. Principal Bigham's face turned bright red. You really should do something about that fever, said Dr. Ted. That night, Dr. Ted closed his office, packed away his stethoscope, and went to sleep knowing that he had done a good job. The next morning, Ted woke up, got out of bed, sniffed the air, and it smelled like burnt toast. That's not good. That's not good, thought Ted. I need a fire truck. So do you think Dr. Ted's getting ready to turn into a fireman, Ted? I bet you that is the next story. That was a good story. And as you can see, it wasn't really about a hospital, but it was about a doctor. And Dr. Ted, obviously, he was just taking care of his teachers and his friends at school. But it just goes to show that, you know, if you have an idea and something that you want to do, that you can accomplish anything you want to. And I think that Dr. Ted's got a good lesson for us. There's always doctors and there's nurses and there's all kinds of people that work at hospitals. So it's always something that you should consider when you're thinking about what you want to do when you grow up. So I hope that you enjoyed my story and have a good day.